In an election year, you hear a lot about battleground states, mostly, swing states. But a concept I want to introduce you to is what I call slide states. These are states that are gradually becoming unwinnable to Republicans due to demographic changes. The problem of the main demographic of Republicans is that it is generally dying because, it's the backbone of Republicans is white people who didn't go to college. That's about maybe 30% of Americans, and almost a lot more of them than not vote vote Republican. Besides the fact that they're generally a lot older, the older you are, the oldest generations are the strongest Republicans. Millennials are not very strong Republicans at all. Uh, More importantly, middle-aged white Americans, they say, are killing themselves in pretty startling numbers. Dying. What does it say? Of dying of despair. Uh, it's not war, it's not famine. They're not starving to death. They're killing themselves, either just literally committing suicide, or overdosing on heroin, liver problems related to alcoholism. It's because of just they don't have much of a future for which I'll get into that one other video why they don't have a future. But anyways, as this happens, masses of Hispanics as well as young college kids, hipsters, you might have heard of them. Think about people moving from California up to Oregon or the West, spreading out, or people from the Midwest moving to Brooklyn. Well, that's not really changing those states, but the hipsters basically. Actually, a better example would be people moving to Austin and people moving to Denver. We'll get to that, but yeah, these people move into red states and they're turning them blue. Basically, they're sliding. Remember Reagan won California. It's unlikely that any Republican will win it pretty much ever again, unless the party lines are dramatically redrawn in some crazy event. But it's safe to say that basically Reagan conservatism is dead in California and will not be winning anytime soon on a state level. Like so Mitt Romney won 59% of the white vote in America, and how did he do? He lost. So you see here, Mitt Romney won 59% of the white vote and lost the whole election with 47.2 versus Obama's 51.1. Ronald Reagan, on the other hand, won about 57% and won almost every state. Back then in the 80s, the white vote was just called the vote. Anyways, to be honest, I don't really know why New Mexico is here as a toss-up state. It's pretty much guaranteed for the Democrats. Like, yeah, demographically, 47% Hispanic. It's just not happening ever again. When I say ever again, I don't mean for the rest of history. Just for the foreseeable future, like the next few elections. As far as things are going, it's just not gonna happen. That New Mexico. I'm just gonna say ever again, maybe just to be dramatic, but effectively, Ronald Reagan will never win New Mexico again, and he'll never win California again. Just like he's never gonna win New York again, because these states they're gone. Like they just don't have the people who would even consider voting for such a person. Usually white evangelicals or blue collar, whatever. They just aren't those people. They don't exist in those states nearly enough. Minnesota and Wisconsin are the other way. I would Minnesota maybe with the hipsters, but Wisconsin, Minnesota generally, these people are college educated, socially connected people, not generally feeling isolated like in a lot of other regions that are more reliably Republican. Especially bad for Trump. Uh, I guess I don't know. Maybe Wisconsin, not really too much more likely to tip back than an all non-white state, but they're not really battleground states in the same way that other states are. Hawaii you wouldn't consider a battleground state is obviously not a battleground state, and again, for the maybe for the foreseeable future, for the end of history, whatever you want to say, there's no Republican, winning Hawaii. basically only white people give a shit about Republicans, republicanism, conservatism, libertarianism, I guess. A real state would be maybe Iowa or New Hampshire, where the issue isn't demographic, at least in terms of race, but they're honestly just a really similar number of Democrats and Republicans. So that's that's a traditional swing state, maybe Ohio, but I wouldn't call those slide states because I mean pretty much every state is becoming less white, but the white people in these states have the luxury of swinging. They aren't voting defensively. They aren't voting in blocks. Mississippi, on the other hand, is solidly Republican, even though it has large amounts of colored people. It has a lot of black voters who all block vote Democrat, but all the white voters in Mississippi block vote Republican. And basically, if Republicans want to win, that's what they need to go for, is Mississippi, as in just all the white voters that they can get. Because there's no other path. You aren't going to there's no way to outdo Democrats on the issues of appealing to Hispanics with immigration or whatever. Like at best you'll just lose support, from the white voters that you already have. It's you gotta double down because there's no backing down and there's no changing it back if you don't actively do something about it. Nevada is at a tipping point. I think it's the next perma blue state, 54% white. This is what I mean by slide. It's the reason it's listed as a battleground state or swing state. It's not because people haven't made up their minds. It's just because it's not a swing state. It's a Republican state that's now full of Democrats, Hispanics. It's just the Republican voters of Nevada have been replaced. The Democrats are importing voters into it. And this is probably the last election that could possibly go red. It's it's Aztlan territory now. Colorado has had a big growth in Hispanic and hipster population. I think Denver is a big attraction for young whites fresh out of college who tend to vote Democrat. Obviously, sliding away. Fucking Arizona. The white vote in Arizona is solidly Republican, but they're being replaced. Again, sliding into eternal Democrat rule. Most births, I think 43% of, only like 41% of births in Arizona are white. Like more Hispanics than whites are giving birth in Arizona by like a decent margin. It's gonna be That's gonna be the next Hispanic plurality state, like New Mexico, like Nevada is gonna be like California. Actually, I think plurality wise, there's more Hispanics than white people in California. Interesting enough. Again, sliding, Virginia is not a swing state. It's a state with a rapidly growing population of minorities and the rapidly expanding Washington, D.C. metro area full of people who vote for Marco Rubio in the primaries, just like Minnesota. These, very highly educated. I hate saying educated as shorthand for college educated, and especially the opposite, uneducated for people who didn't go to college. Like, they just don't know anything. Like, if you know a trade or I don't know if this matters. If you know a trade or you've done skilled labor, but you didn't go to college, like how are you uneducated? Like you went to high school. What the fuck was that? Like how many people are illiterate in America? Like very few. I don't know. I wouldn't. It probably doesn't matter. Whatever. Fuck's sake. North Carolina, Georgia. These are states you would think should be solid Republican states. It's the South, the solid South, and now are this the grandsons of Confederate veterans becoming Democrats because they've seen the light, or are they being replaced and outnumbered? The trend is almost all one way. Next time around, the list of battlegrounds, quote unquote, will probably include another deep South state, and by then Arizona won't be a swing state, and Texas will. I don't think they're gonna win Texas Democrats till maybe 2024, but it will happen. Like I don't know. Like, what are conservatives doing? What are they conserving? Why did they just let this happen? And now they just think they can appeal to some minuscule faction of these new voters and fucking what? Like win them from the people who brought them in to vote for them. Is that gonna happen? if Republicans don't do anything now, then white people basically become irrelevant as a political force because they refuse to block vote and give a shit about actually looking at the issues rather than just being loyal to your tribe. If we have the Jeb Bush the Jeb Bush future, where both parties pander to minorities at the expense of whites, only one is going to succeed. The one that's already doing that and has been doing that and has a reputation, is known for doing that among the people that they're pandering to. And the trend of white death, it's gloomy. I mean, it is gloomy. It's pretty grim prospect, right? People dying. The trend of white death will grow until all of the people who made America are completely replaced and just become forgotten. Statues torn down for being racist. American holidays taken away. You put Cinco de Mayo on the calendar, TikTok, blah blah blah. You've seen it before. Erasing our racist past, like Jared Taylor calls it. We're running out of time, and it might already be too late. The only real hope is that you can convince whites to block vote Republican. There's no other option. There's no winning over Hispanics for the Republican Party. They're pretty clearly trending away from it, becoming more loyal in terms of it. The only real future I see for Republicans is to replace the Reagan coalition. Get rid of, make the religious stuff a little less crucial, because it doesn't fucking matter. Like, it doesn't matter who's. Abortion is not a real issue. It's a just stupid culture war issue, and the culture war is lost because you didn't do anything to protect the actual culture that was on your side. You just let the culture, like the actual people of the culture, be replaced. So how are you gonna win the culture war if everybody who agrees with you is dead? So you get rid of the Reagan coalition and you replace it with the Trump coalition, right? And hopefully bring a few Rust Belt states into the fold. These 3 states, I guess 2 or 3. Maybe Wisconsin far in the future. I don't know. But Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, not in that order. I guess really Ohio, Pennsylvania, then Michigan, in order of most likely to turn into red states reliably. I think let's see. Ohio is already a swing state. Pennsylvania is not the bluest. If you look here, it's a toss up. I know. It's been solidly Democrat, but it's not like I don't know. Maybe I just don't know enough about Pennsylvania, but if anybody could win these states, it's not Ted Cruz. It's not it's not Paul Ryan. It's not John Kasich, because he can't even. I don't know what the fuck John Kasich is doing. I don't know why he's running. Maybe Michigan is doable in the near future, in an election or two, if you can make a trend of it. But the point is, if it's doable, which is admittedly a doozy, then only Trump can do it. How many states can Ted Cruz win that Mitt Romney didn't? Not enough. Only Trump can win Ohio and Pennsylvania. It's a fucking gamble, but it's worth going all in on, because it really is this election, now or never, do or die. Like, win now or lose it all. Another thing you might want to look at is this one here. This is the one that it gives you by default, what they call the blue wall. The states that you can assume are safely Democratic versus the ones that are safely Republican. See, Democrats start off 217. You win Florida, that's 246. Fucking Nevada, California, or Colorado, probably 261. What else do you have to do? Like, I guess Pennsylvania, there you go. Or Wisconsin is pretty likely to go blue. Maybe North Carolina or Virginia. There's not much hope. The margin of error for Republicans is pretty fucking small. Republicans or Democrats have a lot of room for error, or Republicans don't. But if you get Ohio, you get Pennsylvania, and you fucking manage to keep North Carolina, Virginia, then I guess it's down to Iowa. I guess likely Republican. New Hampshire likely the Democrat, just because I guess it's down to Florida, which is I didn't talk too much about Florida, but Florida is an actual swing state because you know for all the young people and Hispanics in Florida aren't the same as Hispanics in New Mexico. Cubans are a little more to the right, I guess, and you've got the whole half Dixie, half like Vermont old people, half Bernie Sanders retirement communities down there, or God knows what, but you flip some of these states and it's doable, but only one person can do it. It's not Ted Cruz, it's the Donald. So yeah, that's the last hope for America, for civilization. Choose wisely.